Hi everybody. In this presentation I will be talking about Jack Chick's Chick Tracks. The presentation's title is The Chick Mythos and False Consciousness, a Study of Conspiracy Theory. If you don't know me, my name is Jeremy E. Baker. I am sociology faculty at the University of New Mexico and also at Columbus State. Additional information about me can be found at profjeremybaker.com. So, first we'll be giving a brief background of the Chick tracks. Then I will be summing up Chick's conspiracy theory, and I will address why this is relevant to the working class studies, and generally organizing these populations. So first of all, what are Chick tracks exactly? They are compact comic books. They've been translated to more than 100 languages, and they are designed as a tool for Christian evangelism. They claim to be non-denominational Protestant Christian. That's an important distinction because of the heavy anti-Catholic bias in the conspiracy. And these tracts are used widely across evangelical groups and churches. Chances are, if there are many people at all, or many churches at all, or even a few churches in your city or town, there are people using Chick tracts. And these are designed as an introduction to the belief structure of evangelical Protestantism. Jack Chick was born April 13th, 1924. He died at the age of 92 in 2016. He he called himself an independent Baptist because I believe at one point he was a Southern Baptist, and then he broke away from that church to kind of do his own thing. His first Chick tract was published in 1971. So the first of these was published when he was 47 years old. Um, you know, as far as interpretation goes, him being 47 when he started in on this endeavor, you could interpret that in a few ways. Namely, that he's not bringing the freshest, most youthful perspective to these things. He also published full-length comic books, DVDs, and full-length comics. As I mentioned, he died in late 2016, and production continues. There are It's clear when you look at the whole picture that there are multiple people working on the tracks. However, when you just look at individual tracks, it is not obvious. So they are all signed JTC on the front, Jack T. Chick. Um, so we don't really know who's writing the current tracks, the newest tracks. These tracks span a gamut as far as topics. They talk about abortion, they talk about drugs and alcohol, they directly address Catholicism, homosexuality, Islam, Bible stories, hell. They even talk about Freemasonry. There is an other category for just other things. There are, and this is double checked, 252 total tracks, but he comes out with about 17 a year, and that has continued even into his very old age and past his death. So I would expect to see these continuing into the future. Um, as of date, 156 of the tracks are out of print. I believe all of the tracks produced over the last couple years are still in print, but there are a substantial number of them that are out of print. And these range the years, again, as of date, from 1972 to 2017. So let's talk about his mythos itself. Chick's mythos is assumed in most tracks. Uh, a, However, a complete picture is only available when consulting multiple tracks. So, in any given comic strip of Chick's, you're not entirely likely to be able to see the whole scope of his conspiracy in the whole thing. You really need to consult multiple works to get a feel for what the whole conspiracy is. And I think this is very similar to Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, if you're familiar with that. Lovecraft was a horror and a weird fiction author in the beginning of the 20th century, and he had this elaborate uh, fictional cosmology of these evil gods doing these evil things. And actually, Chick's Chick's worldview is very similar to Lovecraft's. You just take out Cthulhu and you put in Satan, and it's a very similar kind of thing. So most Mythos statements appear to be semi-related to content in the main story. So this stuff is secondary in the stories. It's just kind of inserted in there because these are the things that Chick believes. Um, you might see it in the form of what it's most common to look like is people just saying things that if you don't know what he's talking about, you just kind of like slough it off as like, okay, that's kind of weird, but whatever. Things like Allah is a moon god, and you might be as confused as the individual in the track on the far right, like moon god, right? Not really know what the heck he's talking about. Um, Hitler, a Catholic, killed 33 million Jews. Again, what do you have against Catholicism, Chick? You might think not knowing the deeper element to it. But that very much stems back to the main conspiracy theory that we'll talk about in a moment. The Perfect English Bible was published in 1611. Well, how come it wasn't published until 1611? What's wrong with current Bibles? Again, in that individual tract that it was pulled from, that's not explained. Islam is currently being secretly armed by the Vatican to destroy Israel. Again, out of context, that means nothing. Within the context of the track itself, it doesn't mean a whole lot. You need to know the underlying mythos of the entire thing. So it is actually rather difficult to extract that mythos. Um, so this, if you're familiar with conspiracy theories, falls into the grand type conspiracy. So this is a conspiracy that accounts for multiple incidents and phenomena. So for example, the JFK assassination conspiracy theory is not grand type, it's incident type conspiracy. It's where you're looking at who killed JFK and why, and most of those explanations are talking about that incident specifically. Grand type conspiracies talk about these overarching sinister powers that are controlling the whole world, and multiple phenomena and multiple incidents can be used to describe this phenomena. So other examples of these include the Illuminati conspiracies, where there's an overarching multiple world governments that control everything, similar to the reptilian conspiracy theories, that there are shape-shifting reptile people that secretly control all the world governments. These are all examples of grand type conspiracies, and Chicks is similar. Chick's premise is there are a few layers to this. First of all, Jesus is the primary element of the Christian Trinity. The Christian Trinity being made up of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. Thus, he will use phrasing like Jesus created the world. Jesus was very disappointed with Adam and expelled him from Eden. So, in that, Chick is emphasizing that Jesus is the primary element. Jesus has always existed, even thousands of years before he was actually born in CE0 or CE5 or wherever you're going to place that. Jesus saved the souls of humanity by allowing himself to be crucified. Again, this is a relatively mainline. I mean, that's what Christianity is all about, right there. Most Christians abide by that principle, not all, but most, and that is still a mainstream. Then he starts getting and adding layers, right? Chick contends that Satan created the Catholic Church. that Catholics worship the Virgin Mary over Jesus, which remember is the primary element of the Trinity. Catholics worship the Pope. Catholics worship communion wafers instead of God. These are central to Chick's premise, and that they do not worship Jesus and God, and thus Catholics are all going to hell because they've been deceived by the Catholic Church. Not all Catholics are evil, but certainly the Catholic Church is evil according to Chick's worldview. He also then contends that Islam was created by the Catholic Church, and since the Catholic Church was created by Satan, Satan also created Islam. And the primary function within the conspiracy of Islam, what Satan wants Islam to do is provide the Antichrist soldiers in the Battle of Armageddon. Um, and I will go in greater detail in the following slides. So this is the core to Chick's premise. Now this looks relatively simple, but it is actually very complex. So we see this complexity when we break it down into a timeline. Obviously, I'm not going to read all of this text to you, but it just illustrates the level of complexity to this. So I will go over the bolded phrases. Chick claims that in 2300 BC, the ancient Babylonians, as inspired by Satan, created the prototype for the Catholic Church. So Satan laid the groundwork for his evil version of Christianity in 2300 BC. And then 30 to 33 AD, Jesus, that was his ministry time. And then in 100 AD, Satan created the Catholic Church proper. In 609 AD, the Vatican created Islam by mixing Babylonian, aforementioned, right, Jewish and Catholic tradition, plus the manuscripts of their corrupted Bible to create the Quran. So in 609, Satan created Islam. In 1204, Pope Innocent III ordered the Orthodox Church to submit to the Church. Because they would not submit, they were slaughtered. As a result of that, the Vatican created communism in 1900 to punish the Orthodox Church. So that posits the premise that the Vatican has, what is it, 700-year memory, and is capable of that, and is capable of creating a staunchly anti-religious ideology that is communism, toward the sole end of punishing the Orthodox Christianity. Yeah, it's far-fetched. And this continues. 1611, the perfect English Bible was produced. Chick claims that the only Bible that is valid is the King James Bible as published in 1611. He then posits that the Vatican assassinated the translators of the King James Bible, and that he also posits that in 1865, Catholic Jesuits assassinated Abraham Lincoln. In 1933, Hitler, who worked closely with the Jesuits, killed 6 million Jews, right? Killing the Jews was the Catholic Church's idea, according to Chick. In 1963, he contends that the Catholic Church assassinated JFK, right? We see how grand this conspiracy is, right? It goes beyond the incident of JFK and just incorporates all of it. So the same people that killed Lincoln killed JFK, killed all the Jews, kept the King James Bible from happening, and it's all those big evil Catholics. It's all Satan. Today, this timeline is broken down into what happened in the past, today, and what's going to happen in the future. Today, there are multiple things happen, but the major points are that the Vatican is secretly negotiating treaties with every major nation on earth to put them under the control of the Catholic Church. That Islam is currently being secretly armed by the Vatican to destroy Israel. So the armies of Islam, as he likes to call them, are being armed by the Vatican, and they are preparing to go to war with the state of Israel. And then in the future, we do see the classic fundamentalist tropes of the rapture. So Christians are going to float off into the sky, literally, physically, when Jesus calls them back. And then after that, the 7 year tribulation period will start, in which basically the earth will literally go to hell. Um, the Third World War will start. It will be a 1 day war. 1/4 of the population will die, depending on how he states it in the given tract. It might be atomic weapons. It might be some sort of firestorm. Um, who knows? But he claims the Third World War will last 1 day. And then um, after that, hostilities will stop. Rome, being the capital of the world at that point, will sign a 7 year peace treaty with Israel, putting all nations under Rome, and then almost immediately sneak attack Rome with the help of Russians and Muslims. Um, After Rome takes over complete control of the world, the beast and the Pope, i.e., the false prophet, will now openly rule the world. There is some confusion in here, almost as if he's making it all up. There is some confusion, the difference between the beast and the Pope, the false prophet himself. There are some spots where he calls the false prophet the Antichrist, which is consistent with Revelations, and then the beast being his Jesuit general. Um, there are also spots where the beast and the Antichrist and the Pope are all one person. Again, there's just some inconsistency there. And all of this culminates in the Battle of Armageddon, when Satan amasses the largest army in human history, led by the beast, made up of Russian/communist and Islamic armies, i.e., the armies of Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, and others, to attack Jerusalem. And God's armies are grossly outnumbered. At this moment of God's numbers being grossly outnumbered, the Antichrist, Christ himself, his second coming comes, and by saving Israel, he is acting as the Messiah of the Jews, thus ending tribulation, that 7 year period. And then after that point, Jesus rules the world in peace from Jerusalem for 1,000 years. And after that 1,000 years, the beast, the false prophet, and all others who didn't accept Jesus before the rapture will be sent to hell. And at that point, God will create a new world. The end. So what, right? That might be your question. Well, the general population, as academics we can observe, are not too great at critical thinking. We see this in the fake news phenomena that we are dealing with at this point in our society. And class consciousness, as defined by Marx, cannot be developed while a conspiracy theory is in the way, right? So, as people trying to discuss class consciousness, trying to dispel false consciousness, trying to see people seeing capitalism as the real issue, as the rich, and not necessarily the rich, but the structures that create people who are so rich being the problem. Well, people might not say the rich aren't the problem, X is actually a problem. The rich aren't the problem, the Illuminati are the problem. The rich aren't the problem, the Catholics, they're the problem. I don't care about what you're saying. I am going to float up into heaven during the rapture, right? That's not the problem. X is the problem. So this class consciousness, um, I'm, this false consciousness, these conspiracies get in the way of our activism. They get in the way of our teaching. They get in the way of people seeing reality. And as teachers and as activists, we must understand and be ready to dispel these conspiracy theories. I have students every semester that say, when I'm talking about Mills's concepts of the power of the elite, say, well, what about the Illuminati? Well, the Illuminati don't exist, but what do exist are the power elite. Or people will talk about AIDS conspiracies in relating to how AIDS was created to kill black people and not actually understand what is happening with and what has happened with AIDS in the US government. So they might make that jump to AIDS has killed black people and not acknowledge that AIDS actually was um, not addressed properly in the 1980s because people were afraid of gay people, right? And probably thousands, if not millions, of people died because of that lack of response, right? So, what is happening here is people are concerned with phenomena that don't exist when they could be spending that energy on phenomena that do exist to cause real social change. And this poses a unique position for educators to engage in praxis by using the knowledge of our various disciplines to strike down the nonsense of conspiracy theories where they abide, right? And take that energy that is wasted on the conspiracy theory and put it into a real social movement with real social change. That is how we can take our teaching and directly turn it into activism. Um, Thank you. If you have any further questions or would like to contact me, please see my website. I hope you enjoyed this.